Hello, everyone. We find ourselves on the cusp of Yom HaKippurim, the Day of Atonement. And there is a wonderful custom which is preserved here at Bevis Synagogue. It's the custom of the Seganim, quite literally the deputies. The role of the Seganim is to stand beside the Hazzan while he's reciting the prayers. And so you'll have one Segan standing to his right, another Segan standing to his left. There's quite a lot of ceremony around the way that the Seganim ascend to the Teba. One person will ascend from the right, the other from the left. When they get to the top of the Teba, they will bow to each other, and they will then cross paths, one then standing to the left, and the other to the right. The custom is that their older person of the Seganim will stand to the right, and whoever is younger will stand to the left. And at the end of the service, they will each kind of bow towards the Hazzan, and then they will each descend on the side to which they are closer to, so opposite side from which they had ascended. And this is a way of having an air of dignity and ceremony around this custom. As we'll see, it's a quite ancient custom, and the question is exactly why is this done? And this is treated at length also, I mentioned this last week, in Chacham Gagin's work, the Keter Shem Tov, was written in the early 20th century. A wonderful work preserving and recording the traditions here at Bevis Marks in London, as well as in other Sephardic communities around the world. He suggests three possibilities for what the role is of the Seganim. The first that he suggests is that they are perhaps there to take over should the Hazzan be unable to perform his duties. And they are quite, in that sense, literally deputies. And so the Hazzan feels unwell or becomes too tired and isn't able to continue. One of the Seganim would pick up and take over. It's quite a responsibility on those who are selected to be the Seganim to be able to take over should they need to do so. The other suggestion that he has is that they're there to perform the service together with the Hazzan. Quite a lot of the service here at Bevis Mark Synagogue is done responsively. And so the Hazzan will say the first part, and the Segan will conclude with the second half. And so in order to make sure that there really are people who are saying those responses, that perhaps is the role of Seganim. Chacham Gagin suggests that perhaps that's the reason that we nowadays have a choir, something that was instituted only in the 19th century, that their role was to make sure that those responses really were happening. Of course, ideally, the entire kahal is meant to say those responses. And so the Seganim, or what the choir does, is really just meant to almost be a sign to the kahal, now we are all supposed to say those responses. So it shouldn't be left just to the choir, but in fact the entire kahal should be saying those responses. But perhaps that's originally the role of the Seganim, was to make sure that those responses were said. The third explanation that Chacham Gagin provides is based on a very ancient source. It's in an ancient midrash, Pirkei de Rabbi Eliezer, that identifies the source for this minhag based on the prayers of Moshe during the war of Amalek. It says at that time that Joshua was sent to bring soldiers to fight Amalek, and that Moshe said that he would go to Rosh Hagivah, that he would go to the bluff. And he said that he would go up there with Aaron and Hur. Aaron, his brother Hur, according to tradition, was his nephew Miriam's son. And they would go there. And Moshe says that that when Moses would lift his hands, that Israel would succeed. But when his hands would go down, Amalek would be victorious. And it's not a magic trick that simply by his hands being up that they would succeed, but that Moshe was lifting his hands in prayer. And when the people saw that Moshe was praying to God and they knew that they had that connection, that divine connection, that would inspire the people to fight on, and they would succeed. But when they would see Moshe's hands go down, they thought, God forbid, that Moshe had given up hope, and they would be weakened and Amalek would succeed. But the verse continues, in order to stop that from happening, it says, Videi Moshe kvedim, Moshe's hands, obviously we're getting tired. How long can you keep your hands up in the air? So it says that they put stones beneath his arms, V'Aaron v'Chor tamachu biyadav, mizeh echad u'mizeh echad. And Aaron and Chor grabbed his arms to hold him in place, one from this side and one from that side. And as a result, he was able to keep his hands up, and as a result, Israel was victorious. And so it's a quite striking parallel to that idea of one to the right and one to the left. And this is pointed out by Chacham Gagin, also by the Tur, important 14th century halachic compendium, that says this is the source for having Seganim during a fast day, and in particular during Yom HaKippurim, during this fast day. Of course, we've extended it also to Rosh Hashanah, so to both of these important days. And the idea is that we are mimicking Moshe's prayer. So very similar to what we said in the last of these videos, that we are praying for 40 days, the way that Moshe prayed for 40 days. So too, the way that Moshe prayed during this time of battle, so too we also pray in the same way by having the Hazzan, in a sense, standing in for Moshe, and the two Seganim standing in for Aaron and Hor. And in this way, we are paralleling what was done in ancient times in the hope that in our battles against those that would call out and ask that we should not have a good year ahead, that we are going into battle, as it were, to say that no, we will be victorious, we will be blessed with a good year ahead. What's interesting, and Chacham Gagin points this out, is that the source for this idea that you should have somebody on each of your sides seems to be, at least according to Rashi, right, the very important medieval Ashkenazi commentary on the Torah, not based on the verse where it says that Moshe was supported literally by Aaron and Hor, but based on that earlier verse where it says that they simply ascended with him. It was on that verse that Rashi says, Mikan l'ta'anit shetzirichim shlosha la'avor lifnei hateba. From here we learn that on a fast day, it's necessary for 3 people to stand by the teba, by the reader's desk. And this is significant that Rashi says that the source for this idea of the Seganim is based on this verse, where they simply went up with Moshe, and not the verse where they lifted his arms up. What this means is that their function wasn't simply to literally help Moshe, but to be there with him, to stand together. And this is something which is so special, because it means that at a time of distress, a person is best equipped when they don't stand alone, when there are others who stand there together with them. And no doubt on a ta'anit, on a fast day, or at a time of etzara, a time of distress, a time where there's so much on the line, whether on Yom Kippurim or Rosh Hashanah, that we pray not alone, not in the privacy of our own homes, but that we actually come together, because we gain strength when we pray together with our family and with our friends and with our community. And this is what the Seganim represent. It represents this idea that as the Hazzan stands before prayer, he doesn't do so by himself, but he does so together with others. And I can speak from personal experience about the strength that you feel when you lead the tefillah, when others come up and ascend and stand there with you, that you feel that you are doing this together with others, with people who you care about and people who care about you. And so as we enter this time, as we have this experience of prayer, we really try to re-invoke that past experience, that we pray as Moshe had done all those thousands of years ago. And we do so together with those who we care about. And we do so together as a community. And so as we approach Yom HaKippurim, I'm so looking forward to seeing the synagogue full, to praying with all of you, and praying with the Seganim, because it is when we pray together that we gain strength. And in a sense, as we enter into this battle, as we battle for a new year, a year full of blessing, a year full of life, a year full of success and peace, we gain such strength when we do so together. And so once again, I look forward to seeing all of you, to praying together with all of you, to feeling the strength of everybody praying together. And I wish everybody a Chatima Tova. May you please be inscribed into the book of life.